Hey there, teacher colleague. If you're watching this video, you more than likely need to pass the Praxis 7812 exam. And so in this video, we're going to be walking through a multiple choice practice test to help you make passing simple. In this lesson, we're going to be going over questions that involve the foundations of reading, language, arts questions, as well as constructing meaning. This exam, this practice test pairs with the exact types of questions and formatting that you should receive on test day. Keep in mind that the practice test that we're going to be going over together in this video, I've left it in the link in the description below. It lives at teacherpreps.com. And so you can go ahead and watch this video where I'll be explaining the answers as well as kind of going over the questions. However, if you want to go over this by yourself, like I said, I've left the link to this practice test as well as other resources for your Praxis 7812 exam right in the description. So my name's Elliot, and thanks so much for clicking and watching, and let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and click start this exam. Now, let's start with question number one. Now, the way I'm kind of envisioning this is that I will read the question, give you some time to read the answer options, and then together we'll talk about the correct answer and why it was that. So question number one reads, a kindergarten teacher slowly slides a finger under a line of text in a big book while reading aloud. This practice is most effective for developing which concept about print? Okay, so concepts about print here, super important topic on your exam. Take a moment here to read answer options A, B, C, and D, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so this practice, this is called tracking print. It's really helpful, and it shows the correspondence between spoken and written words, and I see that as answer option A. So I'm going to go ahead there, click it, and let's click that next button. And here we are with question two. This one reads, a teacher evaluates strategies to help first graders decode unfamiliar words. Which approach is most aligned with research-based practices for systematic phonics instruction? Okay, the key here being systematic phonics instruction. Again, a really important kind of, strategy, but even like philosophy, the pedagogy that your test administrators will want you to adopt for test day. So go ahead, read the answer options, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so as I'm reading the answer options myself, I'm thinking systematic phonics instruction. Remember, that means direct and explicit instruction, where you and I as teachers, we're going to be helping the students in our classroom to connect letters with their sounds and then blend them together. So when I have a look at answer option C, I think that is definitely the right one. Let's move on to question number three. This one asks, to best assess a student's phonological awareness, a teacher should ask the student to perform which task? All right, so in order to answer this, we have to have a refresher about what phonological awareness is. Remember, phonological awareness is the ability to recognize and manipulate sounds in spoken language, which is precisely what segmenting a word into its individual sounds. Here we have map, app, and that's what that assesses. So I'm going to go ahead and click the answer option B. Hey, quick pause. According to recent statewide data, this Praxis 7812 exam has a failure rate of 49%. That number is way too large to ignore. My goal is to make sure you pass. So give yourself the best chance at this by clicking the link in the description of this video to get instant access to our complete Praxis 7811 test prep materials. All right, let's continue with the masterclass. And let's go on to question number four. All right, so here we have a student reads construction by breaking it into construction. This demonstrates proficiency in which literacy skill? I'm reading the answer options right alongside you. Take a moment here and pick the best one, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so the strategy here that we're talking about, This is going to be answer option, D, using structural analysis by identifying affixes and the root word. Now, this strategy involves breaking a word into its meaningful parts. Here we can think about the prefix con, the root word struct, and then the suffix ion, shun, in order to decode and then furthermore understand it. Moving on to question number 5. This one asks, a teacher notices a student reads in a robotic word-by-word pace. This suggests a difficulty with which component of reading fluency that the teacher should target. All right, I see answer options: accuracy, prosody, orthography, automaticity. All crucial words, but when a student reads word by word, what is that? Take a moment here, pick the best answer option, and then we'll go over it. All right, so remember that the word fluency, reading fluency, it has 3 different legs, what we call the 3 legs of fluency. That's accuracy, rate, and prosody. Prosody is another way to say intonation, or the way a student reads. And so that's what we're going to be looking at here. Option B, that would be what the teacher wants to promote or increase or help with that student. Now, just to confirm, because although we're talking about prosody, maybe you'll receive a question on test day about orthography. Remember, orthographic knowledge is spelling knowledge. So if you see orthography, think spelling. If you see automaticity, remember that that is the ultimate goal of reading. It's when you have fluency combined with reading comprehension. So it's reading smoothly in the correct accuracy, rate, and prosody, but also understanding that which was read. And so you can move from learning to read to reading to learn. All right, moving on to question number 6. If you're finding value in this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of them. Question 6 asks, which group of words are all appropriate examples of the CVCE pattern? CVCE, that is the consonant, vowel, consonant, E. Hopefully I didn't give that away, but you probably knew it. All right. Excuse me. Take a moment to find the answer that you think is best. All right, so I'm looking at answer option A. Is that what you got too? Good. We have cape, kite, note, and rule. Notice that each of these follow the consonant, vowel, consonant plus silent E pattern. Moving on to question number 7. This one asks, in the word black, which part represents the rhyme? Black. Remember, rhyme. Remember what the word that's paired with rhyme, we have onsets and rhymes. All right, take a moment here. Take a look at the answer options A, B, C, and D. All right, recall, I mentioned the onset and rhyme. Recall that the onset is the part in the front and the rhyme is the part in the back. Now, this is a syllable that consists of the vowel and any other consonants following that initial set, which is called the onset. And for that reason, I'm going to choose the ACK, letter D. And moving on to question number 8. This one asks, a first grade student consistently writes the letter B for D. This most likely indicates a difficulty in which area of early literacy development? Remember that this is a common reversal kind of issue or challenge that young learners face. It shows confusion between the visual form of the letter and its unique sound because, they're written in a really similar way. So this would be a key part of letter-sound correspondence, which is answer option C. Moving on to question number 9, this asks, a teacher wants to assess a student's knowledge of the alphabetic principle. Which task provides the most direct measure of this foundational skill? The key word here being the alphabetic principle. So in order to answer this or, kind of know the answer instead of just guessing, we have to recall that the alphabetic principle, it is the understanding that letters represent sounds. So directly linking sounds to letters is the best way to assess it. And for that reason, I'm going to choose answer option A. Let's move on to question number 10. This asks, a student who hears cat and says the first sound is k is demonstrating which phonological awareness skill? All right, so I'm thinking phoneme isolation, answer option A, because this skill involves identifying a single sound in this case, that initial sound with the spoken word. So moving on to question number 11. So as I mentioned, I think at the top, or at least at the cover page of the quiz, it mentioned that the first 10 questions were all about that foundations of reading, and now we are moving on. Question 11 right here is the start of our language section. So let's get started here. Question 11 asks, a teacher notices that a student often confuses the words there, and there in their writing. This indicates a need for targeted instruction on which of the following language concepts? Read the answer options and pick the one that you think is the best. Okay, so I'm also reading them. Let's see here. Remember that homophones are words that sound the same, there, and there, but they have different meanings and also different spellings, which is kind of exactly what's happening here. For that reason, I'm going to move on to picking answer option C. Excellent job sticking around. Remember, the more questions that you complete, the better chance that you have of passing. And this is really all about a numbers game. You want to get exposure to as many Praxis 7812 questions that you can get your hands on. And so I'm glad that you're going over this with me, and I appreciate it. Let's keep going. Question number 12 asks, a teacher wants students to understand the difference between denotative and denotative and connotative meanings of words. Which activity would best achieve this instructional goal? All right, so in order to answer this, we have this answer option A, comparing words house and home. And remember that these two words, they have different feelings. And the activity in the question, it directly addresses the connotation, which, if you recall, is the emotional association of a word, whereas the denotative is the literal dictionary definition. For that reason, I'm going to choose answer option A. Scroll on down, click the next button, and let's move on to question number 13. This one asks, a third grade teacher wants students to use context clues to determine the meaning of an unknown word. Which is the most effective first step in teaching this strategy? Teaching context clues. All right. So what I'm looking here is answer option A. This one reads modeling a think aloud. And I personally really love using think aloud strategy in the classroom. It's an effective initial step because we as teachers can engage the students in their kind of cognitive process, their thinking, while we can listen to what they are thinking about. We can do a turn and talk, and modeling is an excellent way to show great behavior in order to give them the skills to learn more independently. I'm going to go ahead and select option A. All right, moving on to question number 14. This asks, a sentence that gives a command or makes a request, such as please complete your homework. What is what type of sentence? Read the answer options and pick which one that you think is best. All right, answer option C. An imperative sentence is one that gives just a command or a direct order or even a request. That's what's going on here. Moving on to question number 15. And that was the end of the language questions. And now we are starting the constructing meaning questions. We have 17 questions for this section. It's the largest section of our practice test because it's the largest section of your actual Praxis 7812 exam. So this is going to be the area that you'll want to focus on for the longest and the most, and to make sure that you have the best or strongest grip or grasp on these types of topics. So over this now in order to wrap this practice test up. All right, question number 15 asks, a second grade teacher wants to use a graphic organizer to help students understand a procedural text about building a birdhouse. Which organizer would be most effective for this instructional purpose? What do you think? All right, answer option C, a sequence chart. Remember that these are designed to organize information in chronological or step-by-step order, and so that's what we want to pick. Moving on to question number 16. This asks, a fifth grade class includes several emerging bilingual students who find informational texts with complex sentences challenging. How can the teacher best modify a sentence text to support their comprehension? I like option B, breaking down complex sentences into simpler ones. Yeah, I like this because that's an effective and just useful strategy of being able to break down kind of problems, tasks, assignments. This is going to be like a lifelong skill that they can use in order to feel more confident and just organize, these steps in order to complete the task at hand. I'm going with option B. Let's click the next button. All right, question number 17. This one asks, during a class discussion about a story, a teacher wants to facilitate deeper thinking about the main character's motivations. Which of the following questions is the best one to elicit this from the students? All right, answer option C looks best to me. Is that what you chose as well? Why do you think the character decided to take that difficult action? So the why questions, these help prompt students to make inferences and analyze a character's internal reasoning, which is a deeper level of thinking. So these are going to be the types of questions that we're going to want to ask. Moving on to question number 18. This one asks, a fifth grade teacher wants to assess students' ability to synthesize information from multiple sources for research. Which of the following student activities would be the most effective for this specific purpose? All right, we have want to use multiple sources, doing some research. What are you going to choose? All right, so remember that synthesizing requires combining information from multiple sources in order to create a new understanding, which is exactly what comparing two texts to identify a common theme entails. For that reason, I'm going to go with answer option B. Let's click it and move on to number 19. This question asks, during a writing conference, a teacher helps a student expand a simple sentence. Which instructional approach is the teacher most likely using? All right. I like answer option A, focusing on the use of descriptive language. Remember, expanding a simple sentence or expanding a simple sentence is typically achieved by adding adjectives, adverbs, phrases, and these all make the writing more descriptive, more interesting. And for a writing conference and the student has a simple sentence, I think that's what a teacher would want to use. Moving on to question number 20. This question asks, a teacher provides students with a text that has a clear problem and solution text structure. Which graphic organizer would be the most appropriate tool to help students comprehend this text? Is it a Venn diagram, T-chart, story map? Looks like C doesn't have. Let's see here. D is story map. Okay. I'll have to go back over and look at that. All right. So the teacher provides students with a text. Let's see here. We've got a problem and solution text structure. For that reason, I would go for problem and solution. I'd go with the T-chart. You can kind of like draw the horizontal part, the vertical line, and then you can talk about the two distinct parts or books using like the two different columns. This would be a great tool in order to help students work and just kind of look at that problem and solution. All right, so moving on to question number 21. This one asks, which of the following teacher actions is most effective for fostering a collaborative and respectful environment during student-led group discussions in the classroom? Read the answer options A, B, C, and D, and then we'll talk about it. All right, which one am I going to go with? I'm kind of looking at it myself too. Anytime I see modeling. Okay, so let's talk about strategies and tips for taking your exam. If you see the word modeling, I would kind of double click into that. I would look closer into that. Modeling is such of a great way to, show through communicating. And, students are always looking at the teacher for good modeling. You can help the students to collaborate when, give them the tools to talk to each other by using modeling. For that reason, I'm going to go ahead with answer option D. And now moving on to question number 22. This one asks, a teacher notices a student reads fluently but has difficulty answering questions about the text's main idea. The teacher should first focus instruction on which of the following comprehension skills. Okay, so we've got a student here, reads fluently, but has a hard time with comprehension or recalling that which they read once they are finished reading it. So read your answer options below that you see on the screen right now, and then we'll pick the best one out together. All right. So the ability to determine the main idea is really built on the foundational skill of identifying important details and distinguishing them from minor ones so that you really understand the gist or the main idea. For that reason, I'm going to go with answer option D as being the best way. This is identifying key details and summarizing the most important information. Moving on to question number 23. This asks, a teacher wants to help students use digital tools responsibly for a research project. Which skill is most critical to teach them regarding online information sources? All right, I'm going with answer option C. Is that what you got as well? This reads, how to evaluate the credibility of sources. Remember that teaching to critically assess the reliability, the authority, the bias when using the internet and, their online devices is going to be a really important part in fostering digital citizenship with your students. All right, so let's move on to question number 24. This one asks, to introduce the pre-writing stage of the writing process, what is the primary goal for the teacher to convey to the students? Read the answer options A, B, C, and D. Pick the best one. In fact, if you're sticking around with me, pick up the thumbs up and yeah, give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate every single one. Remember that there are resources in the description of this video to help you master the content for Praxis 7812, as well as 7813, 14, and 15. Remember, this is the entire Praxis 7811 suite. All right, so talking back about question number 24, I'm going to choose answer option A. That's to generate and organize ideas for the topic they will be writing on. Because remember that there are different stages of writing, and the pre-writing stage is all about brainstorming and planning, where our young writers can explore topics and kind of gather ideas as well as organize their thoughts before they begin drafting, which is another stage in the writing process. Let's go on to question number 25. You're doing great. Thanks so much for sticking around. Which of the following instructional activities would be most effective for teaching students how to properly paraphrase information from a text? How to paraphrase. Excuse me. Paraphrase information from a text. What do you think? A, B, C, or D? Instructional activities. All right, so paraphrasing, remember, this is the skill of restating information in, the reader's own words. And so what I'm going to do here is select option C, instructing students to read a passage and then restate its main ideas. All right, moving on to question number 26. Here we still have 26 minutes. We're doing fine. You're doing great. All right, 26. This one asks, a 5th grade student is giving an oral presentation and speaks extremely quickly, making it difficult for the audience to understand. The teacher should provide feedback focused on improving which aspect of the presentation? All right, I'm going with option B. That's the pacing. We want to talk about the pacing or the speed at which the student gave the presentation. This is a key element of delivery. And so, honestly, maybe they're nervous and they don't know, or maybe they do know, and we just need to remind them, like, hey, no reason for you to speak so quickly to give your presentation if we can't even understand that which you are saying. That would have to be really fast, which would be kind of funny to watch, but not an effective delivery method. So we're going to go with option B and move on to question number 27. All right, so to teach the revising stage of the writing process, we're back to the writing process. A teacher should emphasize which of the following as its key characteristic. Read the answer options as I read them with you, and then let's pick it. All right, let's recall the revising stage of the writing process focuses on what's called the bigger picture. These are these kind of bigger picture issues of a young learner's writing. We can think here about like clarifying ideas and improving organization and strengthening word choice. So we don't use good. We use, whatever they're trying to describe, we can use stronger words. All right, so for that reason, I'm going to go with answer option C, making changes to improve the clarity of ideas. Question number, moving on up there. This asks, a teacher wants to help students distinguish between facts and opinions in an informational text. Which question stem would best guide students in identifying an opinion statement? All right, I think I see it. I'm going with option B. Is that what you got too? Does this statement signal a belief, feeling, or a judgment? So this question directs students to look for subjective language and also like within their personal viewpoints, which that's like the hallmark of an opinion. All right, so moving on to question number 29. This asks, a teacher is choosing a text to help students analyze how an author uses reasons and evidence to support specific points. Which type of text would be most suitable for this instructional goal? Take a look at the 4 answer options that you see on your screen. Which one would you select if this was a real question on your real Praxis 7812 exam? What does this? Is this a collection of traditional folk tales? Is it a fictional story, an argumentative essay, a book on poetry? I'm going to go with option C, an argumentative essay about the benefits of community recycling program. That's because argumentative texts are explicitly structured to present a claim and then to go ahead and support it with logical reasoning. And these make them perfect for this purpose. All right, moving on to the next question, which is question number 30. Here we go. A teacher uses a think aloud strategy while reading a complex text to the class. What is the primary purpose of this instructional practice? All right, here. Teacher uses the think aloud. Option B, to model how skilled readers actively use comprehension strategies. We talked about the think aloud, and this is the process of reading comprehension that makes it visible for the student and kind of allowing the teacher to verbalize their thoughts. We can just like hear what they're thinking in real time. Moving on to question number 31. Here we go. A teacher wants to assess a student's reading accuracy. Which method would provide the most reliable information about this specific skill? Back to the fluency questions. Remember the 3 legs of fluency, that's accuracy, rate, and prosody. In this question, it mentions accuracy. And the question here is, which method would provide the most reliable information? So if you find a question on test day asking you about assessment of accuracy, go ahead and look for the key term in answer option D, running record. Remember, running record is a direct assessment tool where you and I as teachers, we mark errors as the student reads aloud, and then we provide them with direct, individualized feedback. Let's go ahead, click the Submit Exam button, and check out how we did. Oh, what? Did we get one wrong? I got 31. Hey, better to get it wrong here than on the real test, right? So this is why you want to go ahead and take the practice exams. So what I about the practice test is that it tells you it shows you, your answer is in green if it's correct, it's red if it's incorrect. So all we have to do is go down and find the red answer. Or I wonder if I just forgot to... Wrong. All right, a 3rd grade teacher wants students to use context clues to determine meaning of them. Oh, I'm pretty sure that this modeling is actually... Ooh, we have 2 modelings here. Modeling how to break down words. All right. So here we go. It's answer option C. Thank you so much for sticking around here. Make sure to take a link in the description along with the other resources for your Praxis 7812 exam. My name is Elliot. I'll see you in future test prep videos. Thanks so much for watching. And if you need any of your teacher certification exam preparation materials, just head on over to teacherpreps.com.